Well, good afternoon, wherever you happen to be. Good morning, good evening. Welcome to Office Hours. It is Thursday, and the doors of the virtual office swing open where you can come on in and ask whatever you would like to ask. So glad you're here today. These are always a lot of fun because we never quite know which direction the conversation is going to go. So great to see everybody coming in. If you're just joining us in Zoom, open up the chat, say hello. Folks from all around the world, they're waiting in the chat. Also, if you have a question to ask, the link is there in the Zoom chat. If you are watching this on the replay and you want to ask a question, you don't have to do that live. You can just go to wpnathan.com, wpnathan.com, and just click the Ask a Question button. And you can ask those questions at any time, and they go in the list. And so we answer the questions in generally the order that they are received. Sometimes I skip around a bit, but if you get your question in before office hours, it is very likely we will get to it in the next one to come. Also, as I was mentioning in the pre-show, there are a few new links that I want to give you there in the chat. Also, these links are present in our Slack group. So if you're not part of the Agency Success Slack group, we'd like to invite you to that. You can join at myagencysuccess.com. Just fill in the email address there, and we'll send you the join link to the Slack group. Something I will mention. Here we go. All right. So here is here in the live streams channel, there is all these links that I just shared with you. So you can click here, and there's all these short links to all the things. So we have, by popular demand, a folder full of all the chat logs from my agency success live streams. We don't yet have a process to get those chat logs from others. Hopefully we'll be able to do that. But for now, these are chat logs with links that are shared in the chat and so forth from all the office hours and any other live stream that I've done with Agency Success. You can find those there. Quick links to the YouTube playlists for Agency Success and office hours. Also, this is a good one because all of the shares from all of our Agency Success live streams are right here in this Google Drive folder. So you can go back and grab those if you want them, if you've missed them, or if you're watching a YouTube replay and you know there's not a way to get the link or the download from that YouTube, but you can go in the Google Drive and it's there waiting on you. Also, all the upcoming live streams are now on this really handy link page. We don't have the capability to build a site for all the Agency Success right now, but everything is here on this kind of a link tree. All the upcoming live streams are there. So all that is waiting on you here in this live stream links section here in the live streams channel of the Agency Success Slack group. So hopefully that will be helpful to you. Oh, you know what? I wasn't sharing my screen and all of those things I was just talking about. Right? Well, hopefully you can share my see my screen now. And why don't I just show that to you again really quickly for those of you who weren't able to see my screen, which was basically everybody but me. Now you can see the screen here in the live streams channel of the Agency Success Slack group. You can click the live stream links menu item here, and all of those things are here. So you can have access right here to all of the chat logs from all of the live streams that I've done with Agency Success, as well as the downloads. These are really helpful. So all those decks, the audit checklist from Daphne, all that stuff that's been shared in Agency Success live streams is here in this Google Drive folder that you have access to. Sorry about that, y'all. Excellent. Let's talk about the subject of the week, which, in my opinion, is the release of FAIR 1.0. So if you are not familiar with FAIR, it is an acronym that stands for Federated and Independent Repositories. And basically, this is an initiative that has come out of all of the WordPress drama, the recent unpleasantness in WordPress in the last year. And so it's basically a who's who of WordPress. If you scroll to the bottom of this post, let me just drop the link here in the chat. If you scroll to the bottom of this post and you see the list of contributors, there are many, many very well-known names if you are familiar at all with the WordPress community. It reads like a who's who of WordPress. So very notable individuals involved in this project. And the idea is, how can we make it so that WordPress.org is not a bottleneck for the WordPress project? And in the recent unpleasantness in WordPress, it's come out that WordPress.org is owned by one individual and not the WordPress Foundation. And so that's troubling to many, and it creates really a supply chain issue for WordPress websites, a single point of failure. And so the idea here is that there's this concept of federated and independent repositories. So essentially mirrors of WordPress.org managed by whichever organization you want to attach or who wants to do it. Currently, it's being powered through Aspire Press, which is a group that's doing some side projects along, kind of helping with this whole project. You can learn more about them at aspirepress.org. But the idea here is that you'll be able to, by simply installing the Fair plugin, which I have active here on WP Nathan, right here, and you can download that plugin with the link here. That by activating that plugin, I have decoupled my site from WordPress.org, and I'm getting updates through the mirror powered by Aspire Press. And it's basically transparent to the user other than that. So this is definitely something to look into, or certainly to be aware of if you're doing WordPress professionally. There's currently just the one repository at Aspire Press right now, but the vision is to have many repositories. For example, it may be that web hosts offer their own repository of WordPress. It's basically a mirror of WordPress.org, and these federated repositories, a plugin developer could upload to one of them, and then it would be shared across these other federated repositories. So it's a really interesting concept. I think it is likely the future of WordPress. And the question is, yes, is it a complete mirror? Yes, all the themes and plugins on WordPress.org are mirrored over to Aspire Press currently, as well as core versions. So it all works. It all works really well. You can run updates. You basically just install and activate the plugin. Now, something else that Fair does that is important, there's a whole litany of security measures that are put in place, which you can read about there at fair.pm, which is their website. So many security measures to make sure that there aren't security issues and there aren't supply chain attacks that can happen under the Fair model. So that's a great question in the chat that I'll come back to. A number of things that the Fair plugin is adding now. What you would see basically, here's information about security verification. So one thing that you would see immediately is at settings and discussion, you now have the ability to load Fair avatars. Why is that important? Well, because if you've been following any of the WordPress unpleasantness news, many of the things that have come out in the court case discovery is the amount of data that WordPress.org collects from websites, especially if you're using avatars or gravatars. And so this is an issue if you have a site that's in an area that must comply to certain security regulations, like GDPR, for example. Using Fair is privacy first. So they've rebuilt the whole way that a WordPress site talks to a source repository, so that it's privacy first. And they decoupled WordPress from the avatar system, so that it's even further privacy focused. And so that's important if you are trying to meet privacy compliance. They've also changed the news source. This is a small thing, but rather than pulling WordPress news from WordPress.org, Fair pulls it from the WP World, which is a project by my friend Marcus Burnett. thewp.world. And so all the WordPress events are here as well. And they are now being used to power, I've lost my tab here, the WordPress news and events. So good information here. I would recommend that as you have some time to read this, and could be really interesting. So let me take a couple of questions on this because it is important that we understand this fully. So scrolling back, let's see. Stacy's asking, are all the plugins that were on WordPress.org on FAIR? Yes, it's a mirror of the full WordPress.org repository. Beth is asking, do you trust your host to manage a mirror without leaving out stuff they don't want you to use? Now, that's a good question. And so you would want to understand in the future, as more repositories are added, there will be a setting in the FAIR plugin where you can choose which repository you want to connect to. So you have that option. My guess is that if you connected to your host's repository, it would be much faster, the updates, because it's coming from within their internal network. So my guess is that the updates would happen lightning fast as opposed to those things having to come across the internet proper. But the host would also then be able to say, well, we're going to leave these certain plugins out. But, many hosts these days are, they've acquired certain premium plugins. So it could be that they now would be able to bundle premium plugins with hosting, for example, or whatever, where like you're connected to our repository, so you have access to these premium plugins that aren't in a free repository. Does that make sense? So there's a lot of options here that currently aren't available because everything goes through WordPress.org. Let's see. Ben is asking, would I be rolling this out to client sites? Not yet. Those of you that have listened to me for any length of time, you know that we don't change our tech stack unless there is a solid business reason to do so. And decoupling from WordPress.org is a challenge. We just don't know what's involved in that. So rolling it out to all client sites, no. Testing it on a couple of sites, yes. My sites, basically. So that's where I am on that right now. Ultimately, it could very well be that we move to a host-based repository when those start to mature and come available. We are just now at the 1.0 stage of FAIR. Paul asks, what will make one repository better than another? And so it really depends. Like if your host offers a repository, the speed issue that I mentioned, you may find some repositories are curated somehow. Like, you could have an organization decide we want to put together like a curated repository of just the best plugins without the garbage. They could do that, right? So there's just a lot more flexibility, and we'll have to see how that matures. It's really anybody's guess right now. Karen, will Matt agree to this since he's the owner? Well, he's not a fan of FAIR from what we've read, obviously. But the point is, WordPress.org is open currently, and anybody can pull the data from it. And so that allows repositories like this to exist. So we'll have to see what happens with that. I see that comment in the chat, and I'm not going to address it. So anyway, it is interesting. Beth says the host would have to have employees to manage the thing, and that makes you nervous. Yeah, it could be, but what you have to understand is that hosts have a vested interest, in my opinion, in something like FAIR, because otherwise you've got this single point of failure for all these websites they host. So it makes a lot of sense to have a backup repository or one, something where the risk is spread among many repositories rather than this single point of failure for 43% of the internet, which is a website that belongs to an individual. And that's a challenge, right? Anyhow, so that's FAIR. I would encourage you to take a look at it. Is it like life-changing today? No. Is something happening that is potentially fork in the road for WordPress? Possibly. Yeah. Oh, an interesting comment there from Katie in the chat on the hosting side. many conversations between Fair and every nameable hosting company in the WordPress space. Yeah, this is, like I mentioned, this is the team behind Fair reads like a who's who of WordPress, well connected with major hosts. Like this is a big deal. All right. Let's get in. I mean, there's so many great questions there in the chat. We're going to just need to move on because I don't have a lot of these specific answers. I would encourage reading about Fair, and we'll follow the developments as they happen. All right, let's get into our first question, which comes from Chris. There are currently 10 questions in the queue. Once again, if you'd like to ask a question, the link is there for you in the chat. All right. Chris, are you here? I don't see Chris in the chat, but this is one that I actually missed last week. And Chris pinged me about it in Slack. And I don't know how I missed this last week, but there it is. So Chris would like to know about Headless WordPress. What is it, when to use it, and how to learn it? Okay, so what I will tell you is this. For the average person who is watching office hours, you are likely a solopreneur slash freelancer slash small agency owner. You likely would not want to use Headless WordPress. It is likely far too complicated for what generally we do. I don't use Headless WordPress in the work that we do. Now, what is it? Headless WordPress is a way to essentially have WordPress hiding behind the scenes somewhere, generating a static website that is what's actually available to the public. That's basically what Headless WordPress is. So as people visit a page on the website, it's not actually loading anything in WordPress. WordPress is back here in the background, and you would push content changes to the static live website using the WordPress infrastructure in the background. Why is that problematic for small agencies like us? Well, because anything dynamic, think forms, think logs, think those sorts of things, you lose a lot of the way you normally do WordPress things if you do Headless WordPress. And it's a whole different way of building everything. E-commerce, yeah, you might be able to do e-commerce headless. It would be really, really, really complicated, like crazy complicated. Why do people use it? On super high traffic sites, it's loading a static page, so it's going to be lightning fast. Also for security, there's nothing to hack because it's a static website, right? So there are reasons to do it, but for most of us who are, the average office hours attendee, it's overkill. It's not going to be what you would want to use. So hopefully that is helpful. If you're going to use it, there are tools for WordPress, for Headless WordPress, that you would want to use. To actually generate the static, the static sites. I'm trying to remember the primary plugin that does this, but I can't even remember what it is. Good grief! If somebody wants to drop it in chat, I would be grateful. It would be, yes, speed is one of the big deals. It is lightning fast. However, you can solve the speed problem in WordPress by building correctly and having great hosting and using, speed tools that are out there. So I think for most of us, it is 100% overkill. All right, next up is Karen. Hey, Karen. Oh, yeah, you mentioned you put in a second thing to ignore this one, but I'm going to mention it anyway because others might have the same question. So are we updating to the latest version of WordPress that came out on Tuesday? Imagine it's to fix those WordPress errors. Yeah, so along with a couple of other things, the 8.6.3, I believe, was what dropped on Tuesday. I can't remember. I believe it was 8.6.3 dropped on Tuesday. And that version was, among other things, to deal with the cross-site scripting attacks, 2 of them. that were recently flagged. So it's not a big deal. That attack is not likely to be exploited because in order to access the vulnerability, you had to have access to a privileged user. So somebody that's I think it was a contributor and higher or author and higher. Anyway, user security, big deal, right? So if your users are secure, you're not going to have this issue. And if somebody has access to a privileged user, they can do all sorts of nefarious things, and also this cross-site scripting attack. So that's why it was not like immediately stop everything, release a patch. It was out there for a couple of weeks, but now it's been dealt with. So and by the way, the default behavior of WordPress is to install these third dot releases like 6.8.3. This last digit, unless you've changed the default behavior of WordPress, your WordPress should have updated automatically. And I recommend that you leave that default behavior alone. You want these security patches to just go ahead and install. Only once in all the years I've been using WordPress, only once was there ever any problem that happened out of one of these minor releases. And it was weird, edge case, affected a few sites. And it likely won't happen again because they fixed the issue that was behind that with the rollout sequence. So yeah, by default, WordPress asks you to upgrade to the second digit versions, a major version, but it's going to automatically update to the those minor versions, and leave that alone is my recommendation. All right, let's move to the next question, which is from Sherry. Hey, Sherry. All right. Oh, yes. Okay. So this is a follow-up from the hosting live stream, the hosting blueprint live stream on Tuesday. So Sherry was asking in that event, and I asked her to ask it as an office hours question, the 4 pillars of security concept, which I'm not familiar with that term. It sounds really good. If I have hosting and Cloudflare in one pillar, am I weakening the security factor? So by this pillars of security, I guess the idea behind this is don't share providers among these things. Okay. So you want to backup save separately from the hosting provider. That makes sense. The CDN or Cloudflare managing your DNS. That's fine. Registrar separate as well. That depends. Email handled separately as well. Okay. So all these are great ideas. Especially so you mentioned this was Benjamin Bradley years ago, back in the old days. And in those days, a lot of these services weren't nearly as reliable as they are now. So most of these things still make sense. The only thing that I would just say it's probably not a huge deal is I'm registering domains at Cloudflare now. I like Cloudflare for just about everything. They're the cheapest you're going to ever pay for any domain, and I personally trust Cloudflare. So that may come back to bite me later. Who knows? But usually, like, even if your registrar is some other registrar, many times you would have your DNS managed at the registrar. So I don't see those as conflicting. So I don't have a problem combining 2 and 3, if that makes sense. So it does make sense, I think, to have your email handled not on your server for a lot of reasons. Like, don't be in the email business. Your customer support will drop significantly. I have recommended not being in the email business for a long time. I will say, though, I don't know if you folks have seen this or not, but hosting.com has excellent and very affordable email service. So we get this question from time to time in office hours about my client doesn't want to pay $5, $10 a month for Google Workspace or Office 365. Take a look at these plans. This is managed email from hosting.com. And here's a plan for $2 a month for 5 mailboxes and 5 gigabytes of space between, like, this is basic mail, a couple bucks, right? And then it scales up based on your other options. And there's a lot of, add-ons here, contacts and calendars, $7 a month for 50 mailboxes, 50 gigs of space, including tasks and scheduling and all of this. So this is an interesting add-on that, if you're looking for a low-cost email solution, just click the chat button and talk to them about how that email system works. So in that case, I don't mind trusting hosting.com with my email either. And thank you for that, Paul. It does double the next year. So it's $12 a month for 50 mailboxes. That's still pretty darn good. And like Melanie's saying, you could upcharge that easily. Easily. All right. So Sherry, hopefully that answers your question. Huh. Beth, did I get your question as well? We'll see how that goes when we get to it. All right. Another question from Sherry. And if you have a question, please use the link in the chat to ask that one and get it in the list. All right, Sherry. Many words. Here we go. If I want to feature or share a client's project, like a new website just launched, or I had a workshop and a great comment was made and I want to share it with others, I would normally ask that person if it's okay to do that. Good policy. But what if I can't get hold of them or get a response in a timely manner and my publishing deadline is looming? This is, of course, a hypothetical situation. Right, Sherry? This would never actually happen, but just in case. Can I go ahead? Can I mention them in a blog post or email to my client list, or should I wait to get confirmation? Or if it's a comment, just be generic about it. I prefer to give credit. So let me pause. Well, we'll just keep going. A whole email series around. Yeah. Okay. What's the best practice around actively mentioning, promoting a client to all my other clients and networking list? They're in my portfolio. Do I need permission? Okay. So Sherry, I would always ask permission before I used someone's name, and probably a comment at all. That would be best. If for whatever reason, maybe you can't get there, there's a timely response issue, maybe sanitizing the quote and just using, a satisfied customer as the attribution or something like that. That's not ideal. I would always get permission. Now, that said, you ought to have something in your contract that says you can use quotes or testimonials on your marketing materials and put an attribution link perhaps in the footer of the website. That's in Monster Contracts. It's in my contract. It's just part of it. So you've pre-gotten authorization to use it. Like in a lot of places, if you go to an event, as part of buying the ticket, you agree that, your photo is going to potentially be taken and show up in marketing materials, and that's okay. So yeah, I would have it as something they agree to ahead of time. But just in general, even clients that have signed our contract and have agreed to attribution links or sharing, on our portfolio or whatever by virtue of the contract, if I'm going to use their name in a quote, I'm always going to get that permission. I just think it's what I wouldn't want somebody putting my name and quote on a website without asking me first. And so, do unto others. That's the way I look at it. All right. So Sherry, does that get the answer your question? Okie dokie. Oh, Sherry, if they use this is a great question. If they put a review on Google, can you use it? Google says you can't. Google says content that people create as a review on their platform belongs to them. You cannot copy and paste a Google review. What you can do is summarize that review and link out to that review in the what you put in your website. So that's what I've done in the past. All righty. You know, Google's going to be Google, right? All right. Next up is the original Beth. All right, Beth. If a plugin suddenly stops playing well with others, causing a conflict. Oh, this is a good question. So, okay, you're managing a website, the plugin has a problem and it's slowing down the site or whatever, and you decide that plugin has to be replaced with an alternative. And doing so exceeds the maintenance allowance for the client that month. Do you charge them for the work involved? Okay, that's a great question. So this is what I do, and this is what's in Monster Contracts. They're in part philosophically, okay? Philosophically, the client is buying a website management plan so that their website keeps working, right? And they don't have to worry about anything. So philosophically, we want to be able to fix plugins to a point, right? There has to be a point where I'm not going to spend 10 hours fixing something or doing something or whatever. So the way my contract reads, it's in Monster Contracts as well, is if a plugin has a functional issue, we will determine if it needs to be replaced. That's our decision. And we will do it we'll take up to 2 hours to fix that problem. Okay. At that point, we'll talk to the client and figure out what to do next. Okay. So we'll give them 2 hours, or fill in the blank, whatever limit you want to put on that. We do 2 hours. And then if we realize, okay, this is just not going to work, or maybe we determine that early. Usually you determine that early. Like this plugin is broken. It's been broken. They're not going to fix it. We got to replace it. Have a conversation with the client. That's replacing a plugin beyond the 2 hour cap is not included in website management, but you got to put a cap. So philosophically, we want to honor the client's monthly payment in a website management plan, right? Because they're paying for peace of mind. They're paying to keep their website going. And we want them to keep doing that. We want to deliver that value. However, we got to draw the line somewhere. So that's the reason there's a limit. Does that make sense? Beth says she's already spent 10 hours diagnosing the problem. Time to cut bait, right? Time to do something different. Yeah, that's a lot of time. So does that make sense? Anybody else have a follow-up question on that? Because this is a really good conversation, I think. I don't think it comes up often, at least can't remember the last time we've had something like this. Although just today, there is a particular plugin on a particular site, which I will not mention on a live stream, that has a 9.8 level severity vulnerability. And it's one that you wouldn't expect to be a problem. And we're probably going to have to replace it unless this developer decides to do something. So that's going to be one where it'll probably fall in the 2 hour range. But this doesn't happen a lot if you're building with good plugins, generally speaking. Okay. Anybody else on that one? Ben says he's had situations where he doesn't want to continue paying for a license. Yeah, you could do that. And that's your choice as a developer to do that. So you wouldn't build a client for that anyway. It would depend on if it's a plugin used only for that client or if it's in the stack. That could also be a factor. I mean, so here's the thing. It's like you want to put the rules and regulations in your contract of how these things are handled, but you're the business owner and you can make a decision that in this case, we're going to do something a little differently. But in general, the policy for us is a 2 hour block. So Beth is being specific about the problem in the chat, and that's unfortunate. Yeah. So Beth, that sounds like a billable issue to me. I'm when I said it's unfortunate, I mean this whole situation is unfortunate. That it's a major part of the website that it was built on. Yeah. Challenge. Real challenge. Okay. And I'm not familiar with that plugin, so I don't know how reliable it is. Okay, next up is class. Security plugin and website management solution. The hosting training this week was helpful. Awesome. As I need to replace my current VPS in a few months. Excellent. I have a recommendation for you, which you may have heard on Tuesday. Also, looking at options for security plugins and website management solution. Currently using Solid Security and Solid Central. What are you using for websites you manage, or what do you recommend in 2025? Okay, so the as far as a security plugin, we still use Solid Security. I really, really like it. It does what a security plugin is supposed to do. And when I was, working with Solid and doing a similar thing as this, I use Solid Security, and I continue to use Solid Security because I legitimately think it's the best WordPress security plugin as far as a good balance of code quality, feature set, all the things. The reason being is it focuses, it does a lot of things, but it primarily, the two strengths of that plugin are the site scans with patch stack to let you know if something's vulnerable. And if you have the newer versions where you get the patch stack firewall, like it's going to block any attack. Like this, I just mentioned this 9.8 severity vulnerability in this plugin. Well, it's not urgent for us. Like today, we got to replace that because it's covered by patch stack, right? It's virtually patched. So that's good. Love that. Also, it offers a huge variety of ways to protect the WordPress users with vulnerable password scanning, with captchas on the login page, with two-factor authentication and passkeys and trusted devices. That's key. So having that is what a WordPress security plugin ought to do. You do not want a WordPress security plugin doing malware scanning. That doesn't belong in WordPress. That belongs at the server level, sitting above it. So, anywho, does that make sense on Solid Security? Other security plugins, they will slow down your website. They just will because they're doing too many things. It's feature bloat. And unfortunately, a lot of these well-known security plugins, and I'm not going to badmouth anybody here, but many of the well-known security plugins are marketed along the same types of lines as the kitchen sink themes that you find on theme platforms that just bundle everything in there because people just are looking at all the features they can do, and they're not thinking about it from a technical perspective of what really ought the place of a WordPress security plugin to be. Okay. Okay. So what about a website management dashboard? Y'all are funny in the chat. So we have always used Infinite WP. Is it the best today? No, it is not. Is there a compelling reason for us to switch away from Infinite WP? No, there's not. It works fine for what we use it for. We do use Solid Central because we're using next-gen backups on our sites, and it works fine. If I was going to pick, starting today, a WordPress dashboard, I would look really heavily at main WP, and I would look really heavily at WP Umbrella. They're very good. So, and as far as cost, probably about right. I beta tested Infinite WP back in like 2011 or so, like forever ago, and got a lifetime deal way back then. And it works fine. It's fine. It's fine. It lets us update, see all the plugins and update things and whatever. Is it the best? No. But it's not worth changing. So there you go. Does that answer? Is that fair enough? Yeah. Great. All right. Excellent. Next up is Gene. Hey, Gene. Oh, here's a fun question. Let's put this to a vote. What is your take on blog sidebars? Are they dead or still helpful? Give me a yes or a no in the chat. Blog sidebars, yes or no? Thank you, Shanta. That's the answer. Stacy also. Billy, it depends. It does depend, actually. It does depend. That being said, um, I I think that I can't remember the last time I put a sidebar on a blog page. Oh, Vern is asking, I don't know, what is the blog sidebar? So, like where the content is here and there's like this whole list of links and stuff beside it, like, 80%, 20%. Yeah. So, in SZ, that's the thing. Blog sidebars started to become a lot less useful when we went mobile years ago, right? And then it's either all the stuff at the top before you get to the article or all that stuff's at the bottom after the article. And so, um, on a blog, so what's the point of a sidebar on a blog? Usually, and this is where we have to start these kinds of questions. Um, Usually, the purpose of a sidebar is to add some sort of categories or tags or taxonomy links, right, to help narrow down what those look like, and or to add a call to action of some sort, right? So my recommendation is that both of those things are good, but probably shouldn't be in a sidebar because I don't want that to be bumped underneath the content. Like, don't put your call to action underneath a whole bunch of stuff buried at the bottom of your content. It probably needs to be in a couple of places on the blog, right? So for filters, like on a blog archive page where there are filters, pardon me, like where there's a grid of posts or whatever, put the filters across the top, the category filters that just load on the page there, or load the page that's the category page. And then for call to action, why not put that in within the blog content itself? Like as you're building the template for your blog, whether that's in a page builder or whatever, there's a title and maybe social icons or whatever, and then your call to action, or it could be worked in toward the bottom and the top or that sort of thing. But considering that most of your traffic is going to be on mobile, don't put a whole bunch of stuff before your content and don't bury a bunch of stuff after your content. And that's going to happen if you use a sidebar. So does that help at all, Gene? But again, here it can depend because like we have a site, for example, where it's like 80% desktop traffic. It's weird, but it's just that's the user of this. People visit this website on a desktop size. And in those cases, the sidebar makes sense. I can't remember if we did that or not. Probably not, but so I think the question is not whether or not you should use a sidebar. The question is, what is the purpose of this sidebar you want to create? What are you trying to put in there? And then ask yourself, is the right place for those things in a sidebar, especially when it gets to mobile? Meaning that they're going to either push the content down or be buried in a whole bunch of stuff at the end. Okay, great question. Thanks for that, Gene. All right, next up is TJ. All right, TJ. On the hosting webinar Tuesday, you talked about having a virtual dedicated server on hosting.com and having all clients on one hosting platform on the server. Yes. I am an agency of one, so that got me thinking about succession planning, backup people, and access. If for some reason I'm unable to work on the client's website, how do they access the website? Can they even access the website? How do you handle succession planning in this case? Would I need to create a trusted delegate or something similar? Wow, this is a great question. And TJ, you're thinking the right things, right? So let me ask you this quick poll in the chat. Yes or no? How many of you currently have a backup plan if you get hit by a bus? Is there somebody that can get to your stuff? And if it's the answer is no, it's okay because it's where a lot of folks are. So it's mostly yes. And sort of Paul says, who cares? I'll be dead. Oh, oh, Paul. That's so funny. Class just doesn't go near buses. That's so great. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh, y'all never fail to disappoint. Okay, so I'm going to answer this question in a few different ways. I am currently having conversations with a well-known person in the WordPress space about this very problem because it is a big deal and there is a need for something like this. And so conversations are happening. It is super important that you have, if you are a solo, now in my case, I have a team being Chris, who I think is here today. You here, Chris? And, you know, if I die, Chris knows what to do. Chris was here, he's gone. And that's great for my peace of mind and for my client's peace of mind. But if you're a solo, what do you do? My very important suggestion here is you need at the very least, is you need a business buddy that you trust. Find somebody that you can be this person for each other where you have access to all the things. But that means that there's some degree of systemization that needs to be happening in your business so that, you know, you're using a password manager where all your passwords are, and there's some degree of organization to what you're doing. But having a business buddy that knows your business enough where they can be that person just in case. That is the simplest, quickest solution to this problem. But clearly, you've got to have somebody you trust here because they'll have access to the things. When I was a solo, I had a business buddy. Yeah. That just knew what to do, right? And had access. So aside from that, there's not currently a good solution for this in our world, but there needs to be. Stacy says there's actually a book called In Case You Get Hit by a Bus. Yeah, it's called The Bus Plan, I think. There's another one called The Bus Plan for this whole thing. So it is a big deal. And TJ, you're asking exactly the right question, and you do need somebody because, Dave Ramsey says, if you hate the people you love, die without a will. And this is a similar thing. Like, if you hate the people you love, die without a business backup, because in addition to losing you, they will also have to untangle this business mess. And that's not great. It can be as simple as a document that lives in a folder in a drawer someplace that has all this information in it. Yeah. Oh, Katie has a great point. You can wrap communicating with that business buddy into your estate planning process. Yeah. All these things touch, like estate planning, insurance. It's business continuity planning is what it is. And it's a big deal because a lot of folks, so I'll just quick story. When I started coaching freelancers 11 years ago now, one of the first people that I worked with, I think I'd been coaching for maybe 6 months. I met him at WordCamp Atlanta back in that was like 2015, I think. And this person joined our coaching group, and we had our first one-on-one session, and like a week later, he's like 30 years in his 30s, mid 30s, early 30s. He was out mountain biking one day, had a heart attack, and died. Like, wife, small kids. It was awful. And there wasn't a plan. Thankfully, he had a person that was a friend that lived near him who was able in the web space to help take over and help some things. And so that's like, it does happen. And it's something that ought to make us all open our eyes to what's going to happen if something happens to us. Yeah. All right. Well, now that on that note, let's move on to something else. Let's hope Jeffrey has a happy question. Jeffrey is next. Oh, this is interesting. Have you ever had a site lose posts without deliberate user intervention? Months ago, I created a list of all the pages on my client site because they wanted a list so they could go through them to make sure the content was right. 6 months passed and they are finally going through them and the posts are not there. A few of them are on archive.org. A lot of them are not. Is there some mysterious random reason that random posts would get deleted other than someone intentionally doing it? The answer to that question is no, there's not. No, there are no posts in the trash, so someone would have had to done both steps. Am I safe to say someone did this, or is there some custom code or plugin that might have done this? We did do a site-wide retheming. No, so that's that's the way WordPress works, is you change your theme without it affecting your posts and pages. This is weird. Some posts were there and other posts were not. Is that right? It's not like all the posts were gone. I mean, is it theoretically possible that in some weird, bizarro universe, some posts in the post table could have gotten corrupted and others not? Yes, but I mean, it would be a series of unfortunate events, right? That would be very, very rare that would happen. A whole table could get corrupted and you'd lose all of them. But, the simplest answer to this question is somebody went in there and deleted things and they stayed deleted for more than 30 days, which purged them from the trash. Yeah. I'm looking at the comments. If categories are deleted, that does not delete the posts. No. Those are independent of each other. Oh, wait. I know what it is. Jeffrey, did users get deleted? Oh, Paul just said that? Okay. Paul wants to know if users got deleted. That's what happened. Because when you go in and delete a user, let's see. Oh, Chris doesn't have any. I have posts. I can't delete myself. Well, so the thing about this is when you delete a user and they have posts, you can, the next thing in the flow says, do you want to delete the post or assign these posts to another user? And if you have to assign the post to another user or they'll be deleted. That's probably what happened. That is probably what happened. That will also happen to media because media library items are also posts. Anything that user created on the website is a post. Even menu items are posts, although I don't think they have an author. That's what I guarantee you that's what it was. Yep. How weird. Thanks everybody for mentioning this. So, Simple History is a plugin that you want to use. It just is. Look, we're in Fair, so we'll do. See how the plugins look a little bit different? So this Simple History plugin is your friend. It is the best. There's a number of different history plugins that are out there. This one I think is the best. What is direct install? That's interesting. I don't know what that is. Oh, look at that. So I don't understand this format, but there's something cool you can do here with Fair, it looks like. So here's Simple History. It tracks all the things and it gives you the ability to sort through these events. It's really great and it's free and it's a part of our base stack that we use on every website. Okay, let me keep going because we're almost at time and I got 2 more questions. So Buckeye Beth is next. Hey, Beth. I'm probably on the late show with this, but on Tuesday, I heard you mention that you do not offer email with your hosting. Yes. If that is correct, how do you approach this with small sites? Mom and pop just wanting a few emails with no person in house. Okay. So that's a great question. Um, first of all, I stopped offering email services back in around, it's probably been 15 years ago because I got absolutely tired of every employee calling or emailing me when they got a new phone. Like it just, I don't want to set up your email. I'm not an IT guy. This is the one I already answered, Beth. Let me just focus in on it a little more. So yes, do not offer email. I don't want to be responsible for your devices and device setup. Now, if you, as part of your agency, want to offer these IT type services, go for it. But this is a lot of particular work that is not scalable, and it's really hard to bill for if you're charging them for email already. And yeah, it's just really hard to bill for. So it's just not worth it. Like I found that half-ish of my support requests were like email/IT stuff. And it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. So the question is, how do you approach this with small sites? So you can use a service like hosting.com email. You can also, if it's just a simple thing like we just want to show an info at that forwards to mom and pop's Gmail address, you can do that in Cloudflare with email forwarding. And it's super easy, or email routing. Thank you. It's super easy to set up. Email. Used to be right here, didn't it? Well, I wonder why it's not here. Isn't that interesting? I know I have this set up for nathaningram.com. No, this is it. It should be here. Oh, you know what? I wonder if it's just this user because I am delegating access. That's probably what it is. It will be here under email forwarding, and it's not showing up here because I'm accessing this through delegated access. So I want to hide all the other Cloudflare stuff so it doesn't come out in the live stream. But it's right there, and you just basically set up a forwarding address, and it's free in Cloudflare to do that. So that'll work. So is that a good answer for you, Beth? Super. All right. Last but certainly not least is Ben B. Oh, speaking of Cloudflare, any thoughts on Cloudflare entering the transactional email service? I saw that this week, and I don't have a lot of thoughts. It appears to be way off postmark right now, but it looks like it's coming. And so that was kind of my takeaway as well. I looked at this when I was putting the post status column together this week. I decided not to talk about it because it's still probably not something most agencies are going to want to look at. It's still very techy. It is developing, and it is a wait list. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know. We'll have to see how it matures. But it is, yeah. Thanks, Ben. It's way too beta right now. It would take a lot for us to replace. What are we paying? $10 a month, $12 a month, or something with Postmark. It would take a lot, like just the work to move to a different transactional email service. It's like I would pay $12 a month for the next 5 years, right? Just not worth it. All right. Any last questions have come in? And the answer is no. And we are right at the top of the hour. All right, everybody. That's been fun. Thanks for great questions today, as always. So glad you were part of our office hours today. Hopefully you've learned a couple of things and had some fun. We'll be back. Let's see. Let's take a look at the next upcoming events here. Several different interesting live streams coming up in the next couple of weeks. Next one on the list is October 7th. So that is Tuesday, I believe. Is that right? Tuesday the 7th? Yes, Tuesday the 7th. Daphne is going to be talking about domain migration being done right. This is the story of migrating all the things from various companies into hosting.com and keeping all of their SEO authorities. That's pretty amazing. The following Tuesday, I'll be talking about confident consultations and the scope strategy. That Wednesday, boosting site speed. That's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be, Katie, is that Ben Gabler going to do that one? Who's doing that one? I'm not sure who is doing this one. Oh, it's Joe. Joe DeSalvo from WP Rocket is going to be doing this one. So a lot of great information about site speed there. And then roller coaster to rocket, supercharging your agency through a retainer strategy. And that is also going to be a good one. That's going to be Ollie Feldman from the hosting.com team. All right, so make sure you sign up for all those things. I will see you back here next Thursday for office hours here on Agency Success from hosting.com, where we go further together.